Well, good morning. It's great to have you all be with us here during Mother's Day. Got to watch Dennis, so before he jumps on the clock there, I wanted to say a couple things. I know it started. First of all, I want to say thank you to Officer Muhammad up there. And from my wife's and my heart, I know we can speak for us, we are so thankful for all you guys do for us, for keeping us safe in a thankless, very volatile situation. But you guys take care of us, and we are very grateful to have you there and to have people like you taking care of us. Mega Sing, it is awesome to have you here last week and this week. I wasn't up here, so I couldn't say that. I have a feeling God has kind of like heard your name a few times and is like getting a little feel of, okay, I've heard her name. You've been prayed about a lot. You should feel like, wow, I've been prayed about a lot by a lot of people that don't even know me. It's awesome to have you here. And Fenton knew I couldn't mention his hat. Fenton, you be dripping. So, this is the 4th anniversary of my mom passing. We're going to put her picture up there. That is my mom and dad. I was very loved, taken care of. They were great, wonderful parents. And my mom was a child of both of them were child of the Depression. She grew up in a time on a farm living with very little. And her father was in the Army. He flew over battlefields and drew out there. His mother was just her mother was just a very strong, tough woman. She grew up on a farm, and when you grew up on the farm back then, you didn't leave the farm. But my mom told her dad that she was going to go to school. She packed up her bags, went to Earlham College in Indiana, worked in the cafeteria so that she could get an education. She became a school teacher in Georgetown, Illinois, walking back and forth daily from the school out to the farm. And she would pass this little business that my dad would come in and hang out at, and she would catch his eye. And he started asking about her, and his business partners were like, oh, you don't want any part. She's a redhead, and you don't mess around with redheads. He messed around with the redhead, which took many years after that. They were married just barely shy of 60 years. And 4 years ago, she passed. Love her to death and remember her constantly and what she did for us.
Uh-oh.
She broke it.
Well, my mom is Lila Mae Elliott, and she was a high school sweetheart with her dad, with her husband, my dad. And shortly after high school, they got married, and they had 4 children before the age of 25. So yes, we were very close in age. And she also grew up on a farm, and then she married a farmer. So my mom knew how to work hard, and she taught us that. She taught us how to work hard. She taught us how to sew. She sewed all our clothes when we were young and little, and she mowed the yard. She had a garden. She canned tomatoes and made her own pickles. I mean, my mom did it all. She was also my dad's hired hand. So with 4 kids, and she had to do all the housework, all the yard work, and she also helped my dad because my dad didn't have a hired hand. So she would run errands, she'd go get parts, whatever she had to do, and of course, yes, she would take us all with her. But we lost our mom 28 years ago, and I still cry this month. And I still miss my mom. I love her very much, and a day doesn't go by that I don't think of her. She may be gone, but she's not forgotten.
So, much like what Cindy just mentioned, this week in class, my students went, "Oh, what are you doing for your mom?" And I said, "Oh, my mom's passed." And even after 4 years, I all of a sudden gulped. And I had to take a moment, a pause, to gather myself back together. We're going to talk today about the moms that are forgotten. Because my mom will not be forgotten. Cindy's mom will not be forgotten. We were sitting next to some people today that lost their mom this year. They won't be forgotten. And teens, if you will, I have requested that you guys be here today so you can learn from some of our lessons with your moms and not make maybe some of the same mistakes, and don't let your moms be forgotten. But we're going to talk today about some forgotten moms of the Bible.
So before we start with Eunice, is our first one, but before we start, I just wanted to say that we have all different types of moms here today. We have moms that work full-time. We have moms that stay home with their children. We have moms that are homeschoolers, or that homeschool their kids. We have moms that work part-time. We have single moms. We have grandmothers who are raising their grandchildren. Whatever category you fit in, you're a mom. And most important job that you have is being a mom. Not your job, not your work job, not going there and doing the best you can there, which you need to, but being a mom is the most important job that you can have on this earth and that God gave you. So the first mom we want to talk about is Eunice. We call her the godly mom. If you look in 1 Timothy 1:5, it says, "I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and am persuaded now lives in you also." Paul is talking about Timothy here, and he's talking about how Timothy got his sincere faith from his mother Eunice, and she got it from her mother Lois. So when we first started talking about all the forgotten moms of the Bible, I mean, we had this list, right? And we had to narrow it down. And at first I thought, I don't know about Eunice. She didn't wow me until I really started thinking about her. First of all, her name is written in the Bible. That is significant. Some moms just get the mom of so-and-so, but she got her name in the Bible. My name's not in the Bible. Your name's not in the Bible. So that's significant that she got her name in the Bible. She was married to a Greek, and he may or may not have been a Christian, but he was never talked about as being a Christian. And she had sincere faith because people could see it. Her son saw her sincere faith, and built her faith in her son. When I think about sincere faith, I think of genuine, real, pure. That's the kind of faith that Eunice had. Now, moms, you are amazing. You work hard to provide for your kids. You provide the best for them, whatever it is. You also teach them the facts of life. You talk to them about, you should do it this way, you should do it that way, whatever it is. You teach them those things. You have integrity. You are the backbone of this church. We could not do it without you moms. We couldn't. But at times, I bet you feel insecure. You question yourself. Am I a good mom? Am I doing the right thing? Can I handle this? You're insecure about your skills as a mom. And sometimes you feel guilty and you beat yourself up about all the things that maybe you've done wrong. Well, The thing I want to talk about today is, yes, you can have those insecurities, but how you're going to help them is your relationship with God. And I think about Eunice, that her faith was shown. And how do we show our faith? And I think about just how sometimes we don't have time to have our relationship with God. A lot of times we're like, I just don't have the time to read my Bible and to pray. The kids get up too early, they stay up too late, or, whatever it is, you don't have time. I get it. I had 3 kids. They were always up earlier than me or trying to get up earlier than me, and I would always try to get up earlier than them. And I was talking to my daughter-in-law the other day, Mackenzie, and she has 3 kids under the age of 5. And she said, so her middle son is Phineas, and she has 2 daughters on either side. Well, Finn gets up first, about 6:45, and she's like, if I can just get out of the house before he sees me, I can then have my quiet time. But if she doesn't get out of the house, then he wants all her attention. And you know how moms, how it goes from there. You got to feed him breakfast, get him dressed, and all that stuff. But we have to be creative in having our time with God. I remember taking a note card and writing a scripture on it when I got up in the morning. And then I would put it in my pocket. And then all day long, I would touch my pocket and I would meditate on that scripture. And I would think about that scripture and I would think about God. I would get up so much earlier than the kids. I just had to, so that I could pray for my day as a mom and my day and whatever it is that I was doing. And also, of course, my husband helped out on Saturdays and Sundays to where I could get time with no kids bugging me at all or interrupting me or whatnot. But my heart was that nothing was going to come between me and my God. Nothing, not my kids. Because my relationship with God stands my lifetime. It is my lifetime. My kids were going to leave the house when they were 18, but I still had to have my relationship with God. And I decided that Matthew 6:33 became my motto. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well. I bet that's what Eunice did. I bet Eunice sought first God first. And then Timothy could see that, and he could say she had sincere faith. The next woman we're going to talk about is Hagar. Hagar, I call, is the single mom. You can turn to Genesis 16. We're going to read a passage out of Hagar, or out of Genesis. So we have Abraham and Sarah, and God told them that they were going to have a son through Sarah. And Sarah was beyond her childbearing years, right? Well, it seemed just to be taking way too long for Sarah. So she took things into her own hands. So let's read in Genesis 16, verse 1. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, had borne him no children, but she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abraham, the Lord has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarah said to Abram, you are responsible for the wrong I'm suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me. Your slave is in your hands, Abraham said. Do with her whatever you think best. Then Sarah mistreated her, so she fled. The angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress Sarai, she answered. Then the angel of the Lord told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Lord said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." She gave him this name to the Lord, who spoke to her, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." Hagar, if you think about this, Hagar really was not married to Abraham, and maybe she was back then, but Abraham didn't love her. So I'm calling her the single mom because she had to raise Ishmael by herself. And the thing I like about Hagar here is that when the angel of the Lord came to her, what did she do? She obeyed. She went back to Sarah. Even though Sarai was mistreating her, she obeyed God. She went back and raised her son, right? Single moms, or maybe your husband travels a lot, or maybe he's just an absent father somehow, or even a father who doesn't believe. You know what? God sees you. God sees you. He saw Hagar. He saw Hagar as she fled. We see you. The leadership sees you. We see how hard you work for your family, but also for this church. You work in the coffee ministry. You work as ushers. You work in the children's ministry. You work in Family Fun Day. You work hard, and we see you. He sees that you're raising your children by yourself. He knows what you're going through. But maybe what you're going through are things like, I can't do this myself. You get resentful, you get stressed. Maybe you have to have 2 jobs to make up for the other income you don't have. You're trying to make ends meet. Maybe you feel all alone and you get unhappy. God sees you. When Jim and I were married for 7 years, we had our 2 sons, Caleb and Kendall. They were 3 and 1. And we lived over in Marietta in an apartment. And Jim had a job that he left home from Sunday night and didn't get home until Friday night. So I saw him Saturday and Sunday. And actually, I absolutely hated it. I was a single mom for that whole week. I had to do everything by myself, grocery shopping, change the diapers. I had to, get the car fixed, do the bank, everything that you single moms do. I hated it. And I only had to do it for 3 months, and I hated it. So my hat goes off to you. But you know what? I had to change my attitude. When I changed my attitude is when things changed. My kids were happier because I changed my attitude. But you know what? I had to get some help. I had to have people help me so that I could get some relief. I had to, so that I could maybe go to the grocery store by myself. I had some sisters come over and help me. So brothers and sisters, we need to help our single moms. We need to take their kids out for breakfast. Take them to the park, let them play, so that the moms can get things done that they want to get done. Wash the mom's car, mow her yard, give her a break somehow. Hagar had it hard, but she felt very loved by God and obeyed him. God sees you and has not forgotten you. He has blessed Hagar with her faith. God sees you and will bless you with your faith.
Amen. Amen. In 2 Samuel chapter 21, there's a story. I did not remember the story. I'm sure I breezed through it and thought about it. But it's the story of Rizpah. So, Byron, you want to stand up and tell everybody about Rizpah? Rizpah, the grieving mom. And the story is, in chapter 21, Saul and Jonathan were dead. And David had started to take possession of half the kingdom. And there was a whole other group called the Gibeonites. The Gibeonites were supposed to be spared, but Saul, in his enthusiasm, murdered them. And because of that, God had put a drought upon the people. David went to the Gibeonites and said, what do I need to do to be able to get you guys happy again so we can bond, so you can forgive us? And the Gibeonites said, we want 7 of Saul's descendants. What an interesting number, 7. And so David said, okay. And he said, not only do I want their descendants, I want them killed and I want them displayed. I want them hung up. So in the day, the kings would have the queens and they would have concubines. The queens were sort of the arranged marriages. The concubines were sort of the more desired women. And one of the concubines of Saul was a woman named Rizpah. And Rizpah had 2 children, Armani and Meshibafeth. Yeah. And those were going to be 2 of the sons that were going to be killed. She went from this status to no status, had no defense, and watching her kids go and be murdered and hung up. Please go home and read the story, but if you would, I want you to look at verse 9. Looking for good. Let's go 8. 21:8. But the king took Armani and Mephibosheth, who were the 2 sons whom Rizpah, daughter of Ai, had borne to Saul, and the 5 sons whom Merab, daughter of Saul, had borne to Adriel, son of Barzillai, the Mehithelite, and handed them over to the Gibeonites. They hanged them on a hill in the presence of the Lord. The 7 of them died together. They were executed in the first days of the harvest at the beginning of the barley. Rizpah, Ai's daughter, took sackcloth and spread it out for herself on the rock from the beginning of the harvest until the rain poured down from the heavens of bodies. She kept the birds from the sky and from them by day and the wild animals by night. Put your finger there. So what happened is Rizpah then, she couldn't keep them from being killed, but she went and got a sackcloth, went to the rock where they were hung, being displayed. And by the way, it was terrible to be killed the way they were. It was more disgraceful in the times for Israelites not to be buried. Total humiliation and embarrassment. She laid out the sackcloth, and not for one day, not for a week, a month, but for 6 months, laid on that rock. At night would chase the birds away, and at day chase the wild animals away, so that her sons would not be devoured by those animals. Wow. What happened? Verse 11, when it was reported to David what Saul's concubine Rizpah, daughter of Ai, had done, he went and got the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan from the citizens of Jabesh Gilead. They had stolen them from the public square of Bethshan, where the Philistines had hung the bodies the day the Philistines killed Saul at Gilboa. David had the bones brought there. They gathered up the bones of Saul's family and had them who had been hanged, and buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan at Zelah, the land of Benjamin, in the tomb of Saul's father Kish. They did everything the king commanded. After this, God was receptive to the prayer for the land. Wow. So she was out there protecting her sons, her grieving mom. And David noticed David repented, went and got the bones, took them down and buried them, and then God re-blessed the kingdom. The drought ended. It's Rizpah's grief that moved David's heart, that moved God to stop the drought.
Good. That's good stuff.
Rizpah, a grieving mom. There are grieving moms today. Moms, you are going through a lot. I think of the moms that have lost children. I think of Sarah Toth, Vicky. There are others. We have to understand, we have to understand that a mom's pain, a mom's grief is different, men, than we ever could understand. It is deep in the soul. It is a place that goes on. And yet, they have to stand back up and persevere and go on and do the other things. Maybe they have other children. Maybe they have other responsibilities. But these grieving moms hurt and want to protect. And you have to go on. I salute the moms that have lost children. You have moms that have children that are battling with addictions. Those moms are battling those addictions right with those kids. They're grieving. We have moms that have sent their children off to the service. And great thing to go to the service. But those are grieving moms. They're scared half to death. Will their child ever return? Putting them in harm's way for our protection. I think of Sonia Thomas. We have moms who, because of bad choices that the children have made, they are grieving and nightly are in pain. Teens, your parents are grieving for you when you make your selfish decisions. They hurt. Our son, not this one. We have a son here today. He's awesome. Not this one. Our one in the ministry decided to do a senior prank. 3 a.m. in the morning. Was caught. His mom, who taught at the same school he was graduating from, was told he could not walk graduation. She walked the halls for 2 weeks, and every teacher knew her son. If you don't believe that story, ask Garrett, right? Yeah. We have moms whose children have made bad choices or choices that have destroyed their dreams. I remember my mom bawling in the middle of the night because my brother, the smart one, by the way, he's brilliant, failed his first year of college. We have grieving moms that grieve deeply. They love deeply, but they hurt deeply. They are scarred internally, yet truly blossom. Moms, we lift you up. We know your sacrifice and your grief. Your efforts to protect them. You put on their helmets, their elbow pads. You give them the medicine. You take them to the doctors. You help them with their homework. You're involved in so many ways. We honor you moms today, you grieving moms. There's a story, I really can't remember, Fenton, if we've told this story or not. But there was a forest fire that had been brought under control, and the group of forest fighters were out working through the devastation, making sure that all the hot spots had been extinguished. As they marched across the blackened landscape, between the wisps of smoke still rising from the smoldering remains, a large lump on the trail caught a firefighter's eye. As he got closer, he noticed it was charred remains of a large bird that had been burned nearly halfway through. And he wondered, why would the bird have stayed there and burned up? It could have flew away. It could have escaped. As the approaching flames, what was wrong with this bird? Why didn't it escape? He saw it, he sort of poked it, moved it, and once he kicked it to move it, as soon as he did, he jumped back as he saw several little birds, 4 little birds, coming out of the dust that the mother had put its wings around during the fire to protect the birds, giving her life for that. The grieving moms. We salute you. We honor you, moms, for all you do. Another mom that's forgotten, Jochebed. How many know who Jochebed is? There we go. Okay. Jochebed is Moses' mother. Exodus chapter 2. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for more than 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch, then placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. The history-making mom. Jochebed, before Moses, I hadn't put all these things together, Byron. Before Moses had Aaron and Miriam. So she and her husband Amram had this nice little family. The four of them were hanging out. All of a sudden going to have another child, Moses. How great is that? But all of a sudden, the Pharaoh decided, I'm going to kill all the children this age. What's a mother to do? What would you do? If you keep this child, he'll be murdered. So she decided to surrender the child. Not knowing what would happen, she hid Moses, then put him on the Nile. What would happen? No idea. She would surrender the child. And in the end, you got to say, Jochebed did a pretty amazing thing. Her 3 children, Aaron, Miriam, and Moses, were all history makers, all prophets of the Bible. All outstanding people that have paved the way for us. Because the mom was willing to surrender. And what was interesting is right after Moses and this all was going on, her husband divorced her because he knew if they had another child, that child would be murdered. So not only did she give her child up and surrender, she became a single mom with 2 children and divorced. Jochebed surrendered her children. Moms, we see the surrender you give. It is not easy being a mom. You want to protect them, but you know you got to shuffle them out. I remember the day our son went off to college, boarding on the airplane, and the tear that came down my wife's eye. I remember our 3rd child going off to college, and all of a sudden, they're all gone. And sort of this feeling. Surrendering your children. It's not easy. I remember us wanting to make God first. And the little thing that was important to us as we were raising them is we dressed up for church. We all had our garage sale clothes. We got out, put them on. They're like, can I wear jeans? No, we're dressing up because God was going to become most important in our life. And I know times have changed or whatever. But we made that surrender to God, that God, you are the most important thing. We're going to dress up and look good. We're going to give it to God, the surrender that we had to go through. You've heard this story. Sports. You know Cindy and I have deep convictions about kids in sports. We didn't believe on Sunday events. If there was Sunday, church was first. And I remember one big tournament. It was a big state youth tournament. And Caleb and Kendall both had huge matches. And at that time, Caleb was studying the Bible. And he said, Dad, I'm going to forfeit that match. I'm going to forfeit it. I want to go to church first. As soon as church is over, we'll go over. We'll see what happens. He was willing to give that up. We went to church. He completely went to church. I had to kind of pull him away from the teens to go. We wrestled in there. Actually, his match hadn't come up, and he wrestled one of the best matches he'd ever wrestled in his life. The kid actually won, but to parents who know wrestling, Caleb took this state champion, future high school multi-state champion, college recruit. He took him to the limit. This kid was wore down because he surrendered his heart to God. Put God first. Surrender your heart. And moms, we know you do that. Yet, I believe the world does get in our way. We start wondering, well, okay, God, but I can't. Put God first. Yeah. Surrender, and God will take care of your kids. Yeah. Miriam, Aaron, and Moses and everything after that. But she could have not surrendered her child. I don't know what would have happened. I don't. But I don't think it would have turned out as good as it did. Surrender your children. You have to surrender your young children. You have to surrender your teens. And for many of us, we have to surrender our older children. It's hard. I mean, it's wearing us out. But Cindy and I this week have had to go like, we have to surrender. God, take it over. Get advice. Have others in your lives. Talk to them about it. Talk to the teachers up here. How'd my kid do in class this week? Talk to your teachers at school. Talk to the teen leaders. We've had some discussions with Lish this week, not even about the teen ministry. And we're like, wow, yeah, that's good advice. Jochebed, a history-making mom.
Our last mom is Rahab, the changed mom. And this has been my favorite ever since we started looking at all the moms of the Bible. And she has been my favorite. But you don't know her actually as being a mom. But Rahab is the only woman besides Sarah who is designated as an example of faith in the great cloud of witnesses in Hebrews 11. Sarah and Rahab. By faith, in Hebrews 11:31, the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. In Joshua chapter 2, we'll read the story. Then Joshua 2, verse 1. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent the message to Rahab, bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. But the woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out for the roof, on the roof. So the men set out in the pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers, my sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you don't tell what we are doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land. So she let down the rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them, go to the hills so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourself there for 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. Now the men had said to her, this oath you made us swear will not be binding on us unless when we enter the land, you have tied the scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down. And unless you have brought your father and mother and brothers and all your family into your house. If any of them go outside your house into the street, their blood will be on their own heads. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell what we are doing, we will release you from the oath you made us swear." "Agreed," she replied. "Let it be as you say." So she sent them away, and they departed, and she tied the scarlet cord in the window. I love this about her, that as soon as they left, when did she put the cord out? Right then and there. She didn't wait. She didn't wait at all. She knew that they had to go into the, wherever she sent them, for 3 days, right? Then they had to talk to Joshua and figure that all out and then come, right? But she immediately put that cord in there. That to me shows repentance, that she changed. She wanted her life saved. So she put the scarlet road there. So Joshua comes back, and they went around Jericho how many times and defeats Jericho, right? But saves the life of Rahab and her family. Well, one of the spies that had come, his name was Salmon. He was so grateful to Rahab that he eventually fell in love and married her, okay? And they had a son. Does anybody know what his son's name was? Boaz, yes, Boaz. And then Boaz married Ruth. Okay, so this is the cool part. This is the cool part, I think. Rahab had overcome her past of what she was in order to be what God wanted her to be, okay? She had to get over it in her own mind and in her own heart. But she was willing. She put down the cord right away, didn't she? So can't you just think about Salmon sitting down with Boaz and saying, by the campfire, and saying, I want to tell you the story about your mom. Okay? I want to tell you a little bit about your mom here. And so he tells the story. So before the story, how does Boaz view his mom? She's my mom. I love her. She's awesome, right? I love her. But then when he tells her about that she was a prostitute beforehand, how do you think Boaz viewed her? Didn't matter. He loved his mom. He saw that she had changed from being a prostitute to now. She changed her life. How do you view your mom? Now, some of us could view our moms, they've hurt us really bad. They yell at us all the time. They're not consistent. They do this wrong. They do that wrong. I know I did that as a teenager. But how do you view your mom? I could view my mom as the one who totally changed the direction of our family. When I was 5, my sisters older than me were 7 and 8, my brother was 3. And my dad was in the field about 3 miles away, and we had to take lunch to him. And so we had lunch, and we were at the stop sign at the end of our road, and the crossroad did not have a stop sign. We did, they did not. And so you could see really all the way down, except for this one little dip, right? So Mom looked both ways, didn't see a car coming, and she went. And we got T-boned. Totally changed our lives. My sister Kathy was my oldest sister. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks in a coma. And to this day, she has epilepsy because of it. Totally changed the dynamics of our family. My mom felt guilty. My dad felt guilty. My sister felt guilty. We all had things we felt guilty about. But the thing I loved about my mom is that she had to pick herself back up, put the pieces together, and take care of her 4 kids. Not just her oldest daughter who was injured, and had epilepsy all her life, but she had to take care of us too. And she still had to help Dad in the fields. But she protected us. She took care of us. She still taught me how to take pictures and how to plant and how to mow the grass. She still taught me those things. Moms, we all have some trauma in our lives. Children, we all have some kind of trauma in our lives. Do you look at your mom and think bad of her or hold grudges against her for whatever reason? She didn't let me do this, or she didn't let me do that. Or do you not forgive your mom? Are you unloving? Are you unwilling to make amends with your mom? Moms don't get the respect that they deserve. We really don't. We all make mistakes, don't we? We all do. So we need to look at our moms. We need to view our moms as our moms who love us deeply, who grieve when we do things wrong. They protect us all the time. They teach us things. Don't look at all the bad things that they do. Look at the good things. Boaz didn't look at his mom as a prostitute. He looked at her as his mom. And that's the coolest thing, is that Boaz probably could care less. The other thing that's cool about this story is that Boaz learned from his mom. His mom was a foreigner, and he married a foreigner. It's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. So Boaz, I believe, looked at his mom as a hero. He looked at his mom as a hero after that day, not as anything else. He looked at his mom as a hero. How do you view your mom? Moms, you're amazing. You are all like Eunice in wanting your children to love God because you're here. You're protecting your children. God sees you and loves you so much. You have integrity, and you hold the family together. So God uses moms throughout the Bible in so many different ways. He uses their strengths to make history, to save children, to change rules, and to help their children come to God. There are so many other moms we could have talked about, and like Hebrews 11 talks about all the men of faith, and he says at one point, I don't have time to talk about all of them. I don't have time to talk about all of them. So today, we have put together a women's Hall of Faith. And I know some of you are wondering if we were going to rap, or we were going to have a poem of some sort, or we were going to sing. Well, Jim will not disappoint.
Curtis, it's his fault. He said I had to do this last week. You got Eve, Sarah, and Noah's wife. Tamar and Zipporah, who used a knife. Leah and Rachel, sisters and a wife. Judah lied about Rebekah to save his own life. Rebekah, Abigail, Ahinoam, Maacah, Bathsheba, and Haggith, queens to us all. Ruth and Esther had their own books. Women of conviction defeated the crooks. The Shunammite woman stood strong in the test. Woman of Zarephath was deeply blessed. The Canaanite woman by Jesus was praised. The bearing mother, her son was raised. Jesus, mother of Mary, you talk about shock. The Baptist mom's Liz, whose husband couldn't talk. Mary and Martha, Jesus, very good friend. Mary Magdalene, a believer till the end. Finally, Alice, Cindy, Mackenzie, and Liz. My angels from God, I blow you a kiss. To the Cornerstone mothers, you're awesome in every way. I hope we men can make it a memorable Mother's Day.